Corey, you need to be quiet. Oh, why is it not allowing me?
Can I make coffee?
Quickly, do it, do it, do it, do it.
Siblings. Queen's casket is draped with the Royal Standard of Scotland, and on top you see a wreath of white flowers as it makes its way into the cathedral. Right now, we are watching the beginning of the service it is called the Service of Thanksgiving for the Life of Her Majesty the Queen. It's taking place in Edinburgh, Scotland, at St. Giles Cathedral. Sarah, our royal reporter, is in front of Buckingham Palace and watching these images with us right now. Sarah, I'm just struck by some of these images and the fact that we haven't seen them ever really in our lifetime and a funeral of this magnitude. And this is really only the start of the next week of mourning. What do you think people will learn as we go through the next few days about the monarchy, about the royal family, by just watching these events play out?
Rhonda, it's interesting you describing this as just a start, because as I watched the Queen's coffin being carried into St. Giles's Cathedral, followed by her children, that same thought went through my mind. This is just the beginning for them of a long period of mourning, and this is just part of the build-up until that state funeral that takes place in Westminster Abbey here in London on the 19th of September. And there is so much that will unfold over the coming days as the Queen's body, her coffin, is moved from Scotland to England to London to lie and rest in Westminster Hall, where members of the public will be able to pay their respects there, as they will in Scotland this evening. And we're seeing some of the ancient traditions of monarchy being played out here. The coffin bearing the Royal Standard of Scotland and the Crown of Scotland placed atop it. A wreath of 9 different flowers: white roses, freesias, chrysanthemums, dried white heather, some taken from the Balmoral estate, for this ceremony led by Reverend Callum MacLeod, who described this as being Scotland's farewell to our monarch and a celebration of a life of service and her love of Scotland. And later this evening we will see another old tradition, and that is the Vigil of the Princes, and that dates back to the death of King George V in 1936, and it will see the King and his siblings mount a vigil around the coffin there as we see it in St. Giles's Cathedral. A similar vigil took place after the death of the Queen Mother in 2002. 4 of her grandsons, Prince Charles, Andrew and Edward, and David Armstrong-Jones, who was the Queen's sister Princess Margaret's son, stood vigil around her coffin. Some very powerful images. Yes. And for that 24-hour period while this coffin lies in rest in St. Giles's Cathedral, a vigil will be mounted constantly by the Royal Company of Archers.
And Sarah, please stay with us, and we want to bring in another guest. We have Lewis Goodall. He is the host of the News Agents podcast, and the images right now that we've been talking about, what's on your mind?
Well, I think the really interesting thing about these current images and the last few days, where so much of the focus has been on Scotland and on Edinburgh, and that's not just because of where the Queen had her last breath in Balmoral Castle. It reminds us that the United Kingdom is at its heart a union of 2 crowns, the English crown and the Scottish crown. And the Queen and the royal family embody that. And obviously, because we haven't seen these scenes for many, many years, for many decades, you can see in St. Giles is now, you can see all of the top echelons of Scottish society, whether it is the Scottish Church, for which the King or Queen is the head, but you see all the political people as well. You see Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister. You see people like Alex Salmond, the former First Minister of Scotland, all of the Scottish society and establishment there to pay their respects to the Queen of Scotland, not just the Queen of the United Kingdom, the Queen of Scotland, Elizabeth, Queen of Scots, as she's known. Because the thing about the United Kingdom is we've known, in many ways, politically, it has been pulling apart in recent years. There is an increasing difference between politics in England and in Scotland. We saw that with the Brexit referendum, for example. And there has been a lot of speculation and a lot of concern from unionists within the UK and monarchists as well, that when the Queen died, who had been that kind of last glue that really bound the United Kingdom together, that something may go with her and the union would be in peril as never before. That may well play out. But I think what has been striking in the last few days is just how unionist and how integral to the United Kingdom Scotland has seemed. And that is because really, as I say, the monarchy is one of the last true institutions which stretches across the UK. Parliament, got its own parliament now, it has its own judicial system, education system, whatever. But the monarchy is universal.
For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What gain have the workers from their toil? I have seen the business that God has given to everyone to be busy with. He has made everything suitable for its time. Moreover, he has put a sense of past and future into their minds, yet they cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Moreover, it is God's gift that all should eat and drink and take pleasure in all their toil. I know that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done this so that all should stand in awe before him. That which is already has been, that which is to be already is, and God seeks out what has gone by. Here ends the first lesson.